right. So I think we're going to try and move fairly seamlessly into our goodbye session. And I know some people have flights to catch and other meetings and so on, so we don't want to stand between you and your next things. It's been a really, I think, intense and interesting day and a half. We've had three kind of main overarching panels, one on role of business in advancing a free and open internet, another on fundamental freedoms online, another on One Internet, which was the last panel we just had. A lot of parallel sessions, and thanks to Twitter, some of us were able to follow developments in more than one session at the same time, so thanks to all of you who were tweeting from the various sessions. But clearly a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of concern about kind of technical security, and concern that perhaps the technical issues may not have gotten as much center stage as possible. And a lot of questions about what next. You know, we've had, I think, a very interesting and fruitful couple of days with some good conversations. There are also three working groups that have been established to look at specific issues, one on development, one on balancing security and freedom, and one on business and human rights related issues. And there are questions of how these work streams, how do we make sure that the Freedom Online Coalition isn't just a talk shop that meets once a year and doesn't actually do any work? And how do we make sure that in between the annual meetings, some work gets done amongst the stakeholders, you know, the governments and the other participants, to try and advance what's going on. And another suggestion that was made yesterday is that we should benchmark the Freedom Online Coalition governments and take a look each year at how governments are meeting their commitments. And some questions about should we be benchmarking some of the other stakeholders as well in terms of the progress they're making. So there's a lot of work to be done throughout the year, that hopefully these meetings are just sort of a coming together and a taking stock of work that happens continuously. So before we go to the closing remarks, we do have the results of an iVoting, this iVoting exercise that many of you participated in. I'm not sure if I have data on our turnout rate. Is there a slide? Oh, okay. I'm not sure if I don't know if we see the slide anywhere. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, but they can't see the slides on the screen. Oh, they can't. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm blind. Yeah, so one thing I understand there's there, but do we know what percentage of people actually voted? Yes. We do. 10% voted. I have to confess that I failed to vote because I got busy. I imagine most of you were the same. So amongst those 10% of you who voted, you were looking at a number of questions. The question was, there are many challenges in guaranteeing freedom online. In your personal view, which of these challenges requires the most attention? And in selecting what people felt were most important, the first question, overcoming censorship and developing a unified internet, received 14% of the 10%. And balancing security and privacy received 44.2% of the 10%. So that was the most popular choice amongst those who made the effort to vote. Educating citizens in ICT was the runner-up with 37.2%. So I think that also shows the concern for better education about how both governance and technology work. Protecting intellectual property did not fare very well in this vote, 2.3%. And balancing private sector interest and responsibilities online also didn't get a priority amongst those who voted, only 2.3% as well. So definitely security and privacy, balance, and education were the most popular choices. So that's certainly an interesting thing to reflect on here. Now I'm going to turn to the next year's meeting. And we have Foreign Minister of Mongolia, who has come to introduce us to his country, which I have to say I've been to Mongolia a few times, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Wide open skies. It's a breathtaking country in many ways, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about the meeting and to attending next year. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your support. Just continuing on the issue of the voting, I did vote. I vote for number 1, because I hope next year when we all gather in Mongolia, number 1 will win, you know. This is the process we see, how internet will reign the world in a better way. And if we look at our conference slogan, free and secure internet for all, I think just summarizing for myself, we should make clarity on what we understand behind it. Free, I would say free would understand that it is, if possible, free of charge, free to everyone. And secure, I would understand it is secure that everyone can obtain it. It's like in terms of maybe, if you talk about, for example, energy security, you don't think, or you don't assume that it is about don't get poisoned by petroleum, gasoline, or don't be aware of the electric shock, you know. You talk about availability, about the security of supply. Same should be true also for internet. This means that internet has a role for all the human kind as an invention of wheel combined with control or making of fire, you know. This means it is a very natural, basic right of every human being. If we will take that as our starting point and then start the movement, the development, how we can make it available, how we can make it a tool for development and better life for everyone, then we are there. We are there where Mongolia wants to be as a next chair. It is like fundamental issues, you know. Mankind has really sometimes needed more than centuries, even millennia, to develop certain understandings, like women's rights, you know. It was not like today, you know, it is very natural things, but it was not that way for many, many years, you know. Or how to deal with the bad habits or alcohol bans, you know. Or take even the just simple things, you know, like knives. You can, cut bread, be useful, or also you can harm people, you know. But this doesn't mean that you take out or you control all the knives in households, you know. I remember in the wild 60s, Mongolia was in the development mode. Every second young boy had a knife in the pocket. But today, that's impossible to think, you know. Sometimes I remember when the police came to our schools and there was a raid checking every boy, and then they collected arsenal of knives and other devices, you know. Therefore, I think it is about social behavior. And this is something also, there was the number 3 should be also a very important one. That really we don't need to address ourselves, to focus ourselves, how we can control the internet, but how we can educate the social behavior. Just a simple example. My daughter, Margit, she's in grade 7, came to me one day, asked something. I didn't know. So I asked her, or referred her, look at the Wikipedia. But she told, my teacher said never to look at the unsecure websites. So what to do? My teacher didn't say to me that. So I looked at the Wikipedia, and I told her what it was about. So this is something where we can really develop a system. Internet, universal right, universal environment, and change our societies. That is, of course, issues of every and each country and nation. And here we want to find this common understanding. And yesterday, during the Google event, I promised that with the apologies to Vint Cerf, that Mongolia was the country where the internet was born. So I have to elaborate a little bit on that, because you know that Genghis Khan created the greatest empire in the world. Maybe some 70 countries he conquered. But today, many scholars look, what was the reason this small country, small population could control more than 70% of the known world? And there are many theories, like military organizations, the horses and genius or the divine powers of Genghis Khan and so on. But if you look at the realities, it is very, very easy to understand, because Genghis Khan's powers were two things. First, he introduced the internet. At that time, he allowed the free flow of information and goods in all the countries he conquered. And he introduced the first time the messenger system. Every 30 kilometers change horses, and from Estonia to Mongolia, it was 1 month, that an email came to his office, And this information system made it possible to expand with no limits. And only limit was one day his successor died, but not because of age or illness, it was an accident, He died because he was participating in a drinking bout, Sorry for that. But, this preserved Western Europe, the only place which was not under Genghis Khan's rule. And therefore, this idea of free exchange of information, that was a real fundament for a new global order which Genghis Khan created. And why so many countries voluntarily joined Mongolia at that time? Because it was his idea, more freedom for everyone, not only information, but on the business, everything. And he lowered the taxes. The own rulers imposed 50, 60, 70% taxes, but he introduced only 10% for the general world order. And that was a real just system where he could expand his empire on that way. Therefore, as you see in this short video, Mongolia is a beautiful country. Mongolia is the country where internet and the free thinking was born and ruled the world. So next year, let's do it same. Let's make the starting point that our world will be a real better one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And as some of you may or may not know, the Estonian language and the Mongolian language are very closely related for obvious reasons that were just discussed. So without further ado, we're going to move on to some closing observations by Frederick Donk, who's director of the European Regional Bureau of the Internet Society. Just your thoughts about what this meeting has accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I feel very honored to participate to the closing of this session in those 2 fascinating days. Fascinating just not only because of the high-level participant, but also because of the quality of the contribution so far. So let me start by another historic remark. 350 before the Christian era, Aristotle stated that women did not have the same number of teeth as men. And you had to wait about 2,000 years before someone, meets in the Renaissance, had this revolutionary idea, quite foolish, but yet revolutionary, to state, well, why don't we count them? So there was a very disruptive shift in paradigm. I mean, now everybody agrees that whenever you state some scientific fact, you better check it twice against reality. This is called empiricism. I believe we are in the middle of such a very disruptive shift in paradigm, and this is called multi-stakeholderism. Many people in the world are now coming to a level of conviction, and I would even say a level of consciousness, that in order to tackle really important issues for a human being, call it human rights, the internet, environment, you name it, you need to tackle it with as many angles, as many participants, as many contributions as possible. And this implies collaborative processes of engagement. This implies transparency. This is as important. And we call it the internet model. So just a few weeks ago, you might have seen the results of NetMondial, who just state again the importance of such a process. So yes, in theory, it's just a very simple model. In practice, this is fairly more difficult. I mean, just not because you have many different stakeholders, but also because things have become heavily complex. On the internet, principles and rights are now interacting in a way we just didn't expect. There are frictions. Take the result of the vote, the 10%, privacy and security. I mean, some people believe that there should be trade-off between those two principles, that there is a zero-sum game. If you have more security, you have less privacy, and vice versa. We don't think so. We believe that we should be able to achieve both objectives equally. Take freedom of speech or free for information. That is being felt as a threat to public order and even a threat to some traditional business models. Again, how could we possibly reconcile those objectives and having the internet remaining this permissionless, innovative platform and environment as we know it? I'm saying permissionless, not anarchy. So this is really one of the key issues we believe. We need not to see those principles, even though they might see or seems to conflict or there might seem to be some frictions. We do need to consider them as equally important and achieve all of them. So as many panelists have recalled those days, there is no silver bullet. We have to tackle those issues with different angles, hence again, the importance of the multi-stakeholder approach. I mean, many of those issues will have to see and be solved by technical, policy, user-centric solutions. Again, we discussed that just a few minutes ago in the previous panel. Multi-stakeholderism is just not only about the role of the different stakeholders, but this is also, and more importantly, about how we collectively can tackle this work and find solutions. There were very important declarations in principles a few days in Sao Paulo, right now with this coalition. I won't address them all, and again, I would like to concentrate on one very important one in the recommendation of this coalition, and that would be the role and importance of the Internet Governance Forum as just a place where people again can exchange, find solutions, better understand each other, find consensus on critical issues. So again, we've seen very strong principles. I'm very happy to see those robust principles being expressed those days. Let me make a wish. This is also the time after the affirmation of those principles. This is also the time to walk the talk. And we might need to think concretely in the next step and be sure that the Internet society is ready to support this move. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, I'll hand the microphone to Mr. Mart Lannemai. I hope I pronounced your name properly. Deputy Undersecretary of State of the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for your final closing benediction.
Thank you, Rebecca. And thank you to all of you. It's a great honor for me to close this conference, and the more so that I believe that people like me, in other words, North European man with an engineering degree who works for the government, should not be running the internet. It should be all of us. We are all stakeholders here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing your part as stakeholders to make this conference a success and to bring forward our efforts to create a free and secure internet for all. Now, many of you have probably already heard the story of why the city of Tallinn is a work in progress, why it never should be finished. It's an old story, goes back to the Middle Ages. Across the street from the airport, there's a big lake. And an old man lives in this lake. He's hundreds of years old by now. And the only thing he lives for is that when the city of Tallinn gets finished one day, he will flood it and destroy it. And so this is why we keep building this place, to make sure that this will never happen. It's much the same as what we do in the internet. Maybe this is why we say the internet feels at home here in Tallinn. And it is up to all of us. It is up to all of us to participate in this work. And in this context, it is important that we have all worked together to finalize the Tallinn agenda, but I have one request for all of you. Please endorse it. Please go to our homepage whenever you are, freedomonline.ee, open the Tallinn agenda, scroll all the way to the bottom, and there is some text that says, give your vote, which is, I suppose, modern Estonian with English words. And fill in your name and click submit. And your name will be added to the list of the names of the people and organizations who have already endorsed the Tallinn agenda. If you help us to endorse it, and there are so many of us here, that will help us to make the Tallinn agenda a living document which will show us the way forward in our efforts, again, to ensure a free and secure internet for all. I also would like to turn your attention to this slide here. This is a very important slide because I need to remind you that Estonia and many other Freedom Online Coalition members have been assisting the Digital Defenders Partnership to support the journalists, bloggers, and human rights defenders who are facing restrictions online, or even worse, whose lives might be in danger. And I would extend an invitation to all of our partners, all stakeholders, to join us in supporting Digital Defenders Partnership. That is another job that will never, unfortunately, be completely finished. Now I would like to thank all the speakers, the moderators, and the organizers of the panels, and all of the people who have participated actively in all of the events at this conference. You have made this conference. Your efforts have ensured an interesting dialogue for all of us and for all the people all over the world who have had an opportunity to watch the panels online. I would also like to thank all the members of the organizing team, all of the dozens of people who you see here. Many of them have taken time off their normal job to help this conference succeed. And then there are three people that I would like to thank especially. First of all, Martin Lään, please stand up. Martin Lään, I don't have to say anything about what Martin has done for all of us. Thank you, Martin. Piret Urb, over here. Now, for many of you, yes, just as popular. Piret is the Freedom Online Coalition chairmanship. She works all the time to make sure that the Freedom Online Coalition works. And Eva-Maria Liimets over there, who has organized this whole conference. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Piret. Aitäh teile, see oli suurepärane. And now the second to last slide. Special thanks goes to our partners and sponsors, the e-Governance Academy, Global Partners Digital, Digital Defenders Partnership, Estonian Development Cooperation, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands, Google, Nortal, GuardTime, Signwise, Yahoo, Cybernetica, Facebook, Microsoft, Mozilla, Telia Sonera, the International Development Research Center of Canada, and Freedom House. I wish all the best to Mongolia, the country where the internet was born, the next chair of the Freedom Online Coalition, and the host of the 2015 conference. We can be confident that internet freedom will be safe with you. And thank you, all of you, once again, for coming to Estonia, where the internet feels at home. And I hope that you also feel at home here and come again. But next year we all go to Mongolia. Thank you.